Hello. Can everybody hear me? No, not yet.
No.
Hello? What? Hello? Oh, now I can hear myself. Oh, can everybody hear me? Great. Welcome, everyone. How are you all doing? Oh, no, one more time. How are you all doing? Awesome, awesome. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. This is very, very exciting. It's great to see so many of you here. Thank you for taking time out to share the evening with us. As you can imagine, there is a lot to discuss. And I've seen, as you've all been mingling and meeting new people, some people already writing on our board outside, which I'll talk about in a little bit more detail, answering the question, what does a diverse workplace look like? So yes, lots of ideas, I'm sure, and thoughts percolating already. My name is Dumi. I head up OfferZen Foundation, and I'm going to be your moderator this evening. I will introduce my wonderful panelists as well in a minute, but I thought let's start off with some house rules so everybody knows what is where, and then we can kick off the evening in earnest. Cool? Great. Okay, so bathrooms, very important. They are out of the building. If you go down and to your right, that's where you'll find them if you haven't already. Also really important is please make everybody at home feel as jealous as they can be that they are not here and you are. So if you can interact on social media, that would be great. Our handle is at OfferZen, and the hashtag for tonight is hashtag future of work. Okay, great. At OfferZen, hashtag future of work. And then we also, in true OfferZen style, we have a competition running for those who engage with us on social media. And we have a model to show off the swag up for grabs. Woo! So we have a hoodie that we're giving away to a lucky somebody who engages with us on social media. So that's up for grabs. Thank you, Candice. Very cool. And then, last but not least, one last house rule. So today we are talking about diversity and inclusion, and that is heavy. That is complicated. It's very personal. And so I'm going to ask that we make a commitment all together this evening, that we make this a safe space, that we are okay with being uncomfortable, because sometimes when we have these conversations, the uncomfortable thing has to be said. And that we also interact with each other coming from a place of understanding, wanting to understand, and wanting to learn more about what is something that is very complex in any context. Cool? Awesome. All right. On that note, how many of you know OfferZen? Great. So then it will come as no surprise that, at OfferZen, our mission is to help people unlock their potential. And that comes from a belief that while talent is universally distributed, opportunity isn't. And in fact, that uneven access to opportunity is so pervasive that it cannot be dealt with alone by the high demand for software skills and software makers. And it's from that realization that OfferZen Foundation was also established, is in the fact that there is this uneven access to opportunity. And that's why OfferZen Foundation's mission is to help people from underserved backgrounds thrive in their tech career. One day, if we look back as OfferZen Foundation and we say anybody with the aptitude and the skill and wants to thrive in a South African tech career, if they are able to do that, then we've done a great job and we can feel proud. But unfortunately, that's not where we are at the moment. And so something else that we can't sidestep is the fact that given our history in South Africa, given our background, the people who most often are affected when it comes to uneven access to opportunity are people who are non-white. And we cannot hide from that history. We have to acknowledge it, and we have to address it. And so it is also a place where we have an opportunity to make a really big impact in making this community more diverse. And it's for that reason that we've decided to focus for the time being on that as our focus as OfferZen Foundation. So all of this comes together tonight in this event with the aim that we're able to have this forum to unpack some of these issues, to deepen our understanding collectively, which is why it's so great to see people from training programs, from companies, individuals themselves, all of us here deepening our collective understanding of the space. And that's why I'm so excited now to hand over to my panelists to introduce themselves, because one of the topics that we really want to unpack tonight is this idea of work readiness, especially when we talk about people from underserved backgrounds. And we'll deep dive into all of that as well. But work readiness is something that has come up again and again in conversation to say, how do we get people who are entering the tech industry ready for the tech industry? And so our experts tonight are going to help us unpack that. So I have Baratang Mia, who runs Girl Hype, and Alwyn van Wyk, who runs Younglings Africa. So I'm not going to say too much more about them. I've said a lot already, I think. So I'm going to ask you each to introduce yourselves to the audience tonight. And if you could tell us how it is that you came to working in the diversity and inclusion in tech space as well.
Evening, everybody. Yeah, as she mentioned, my name is Baratang Mia, and I am a founder of Girl Hype, a coding school that started 2002 by default. Those days it wasn't called coding school, we just called ourselves software development because somebody told us we are software developers. So I am a self-taught coder, so somebody introduced me to coding, but I had seen it before, and I just fell in love with seeing numbers scrolling on a computer, and I was fascinated to know how can someone change numbers like that. I mean, it's too fast, and this person is busy doing whatever he's doing. I need to know what is that. Fast track, I started Girl Hype 2003 with the aim of encouraging schoolgirls to know how to use computers so that when they get to university, they don't struggle, which was a challenge at the time. The digital divide was huge. It's still huge, but it's a different kind of digital divide. At that time, it was no computers. Like, if you saw a computer, you were excited. So I then went to schools, and the Western Cape government was rolling a program where they were putting computers in schools, and Mark Shuttleworth was busy also putting computers in schools, and teachers didn't know how to use computers. And I read that online, and I thought, well, I know how to use computers. Maybe I should go teach the teachers. Instead, the teachers put me in a computer lab, and I ended up saying, hey, by the way, I'm a feminist. I would love to teach girls. And 2 years later, somebody said, I can even teach you how to code, not just use PowerPoint and Microsoft. And I learned from huge amount of people. At the time, my husband said to me, you know what, the people from work can come and teach you every weekend to code. So he got his software development department, all white males, to come to our house every weekend. Fortunately, we lived in Claremont, so they felt safe. So they came every weekend to come and teach me how to code whilst he entertains them. And I started enjoying it, and they showed me all the tricks of how to, and that's how the model came together.
Wow. And now you are here. Thank
you.
I'm
here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hello, everybody. My name is Alwyn. It's kind of weird and awkward, so I'm just going to say hi. Thank you to me. It's awesome. Thanks for the whole research and getting everything together. So I think that's where we are now. There's such a groundswell of people wanting to change the world, and I'm honored to be part of that. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Baratang, for you. A kind of Girl Hype's been there forever, and you've been like my inspiration all the time. If Bara can do it, then I must just stick it out and also make it happen. So thank you. I see a number of people in the audience as well that really inspired me in a few years, like 2016 when we started and kicked off inside ABSA. It's called the Aliens Office. It's actually just around the corner here in Longkloof Studios. And there we started experimenting with taking in interns. And that's where the Younglings was created and born out of that. And we just, over time, with ABSA's amazing assistance, you wouldn't expect it from a bank, right? But there are a few people. It's not just, it's not the bank. It's one or two people in there whose heart's in the right place, and we're able to channel things into the right direction. And that helped us to kick off Younglings. So Codex Academy is here, Capacity is here, a number of, I don't know if Code for Cape Town is here, but just all of these people that have been doing it for so long, I salute you and thank you. You've been my inspiration. Yeah, that's where we are now.
Well, thank you very much. And thank you for being here as well.
Thank you.
Great. All right. So I think we're ready, right? Okay. So, Baratang, I want to start with you. You've given us a great introduction into the story with Girl Hype and what inspired you to start teaching girls how to code. And I'm curious, from a work readiness point of view, what would you say are the most important skills or things that you need to impart on the girls that are trained through your program to have them ready for work?
We now have a slogan. We never used to have it, but we decided to come up with a slogan. It's been going for 1 year, 6 months now. Is that people don't employ you to code, they employ you to solve problems. And if you cannot use technology to solve problems, don't think you're a coder, because you don't know how to develop any software. And we give it to the girls every time they sign in. We tell them, can you problem solve? So we instilling it in their mind that they need to know that people don't pay them to rewrite algorithms or rewrite code, because that you can Google, you can find anywhere. But if somebody gives you a problem, you need to be a good problem solver and become a good team player. It's something that we learned from aliens. It's funny. It's the past 2 years we've been running our program from Rise, and we were very exposed to aliens all the time. So they sit there and we sit here, and I see what they do all the time. And one of the things that really struck me was how teamwork is very important to the aliens. They never work 1-1 or 2-2. We used to let the girls work in pairs, but we weren't as strong as aliens. So when they do their agile meetings, the whole team stand together. And you see that teamwork is very important, because for me, I know that most of the software developers that I worked with, they struggle to become part of the team. They're used to working on their own, and their computer, and just getting instructions from everywhere, and they can do that. But then when somebody starts wanting to tell them and give them feedback of, I don't like this, or it's done this way, they get irritable. So that's just something that we need to change. And also adapting into a new culture. We have people that, I'll speak for people that we work with. We have girls that comes from totally disadvantaged background. So they're struggling with languages, struggling with new things. They've learned how to code in a very short space of time, and they know code. And then they get to workplace, and all of a sudden they realize, oh, I don't know how to code. They need someone to hold their hand. And now the environments that they go to, it's so fast. You need to be able to get there run. They don't have time to babysit people. And now balancing that, it's just something that I think we cannot expect people who have so many barriers to all of a sudden switch on and be able to run,
right,
whilst the environment is not allowing them to join and become just, that patience. I'm speaking on their behalf now to say, if you're a software developer and you see people are lost, it's not that they don't know, it's because the environment is new for them. And it's because they learned how to code. We've taught them how to memorize code. We just opened that door.
Yeah.
It's for the person who's employing them, because we're not bringing what OfferZen will put to the market. We're bringing people who want to enter the door.
Right.
So the corporate should be able to say, how do we balance?
Right.
That this person has a personality.
Yes. Yeah.
Has the capability. They can adjust, they can adapt. Let's not exclude them before they even enter the door, because they might never come back.
So I think that's so wow. That's so fundamental to the issue, is to say, actually, you're dealing with somebody who knows, the code, and they have the skill, but that environment is very new, and there's a whole lot that we can unpack in that. But I wonder, how do you practically teach that? How do you teach that adaptability? Because coming into any workplace is scary. Coming into any environment where you feel like, oh, I don't know, if I'm going to make it here. I don't know if I know the same jokes as everybody, if I come from the same upbringing. That's scary. So how do you practically teach that within your program so that the girls are better set up?
We work with lots of different programs. So we bring mentors, we bring other people to come and teach the girls. So we only started doing graduate girls. We used to work with girls from grade 10 to grade 12. Mm-hmm. And we don't do that anymore. But we used to say, fail as many times as you want. So we'll give them, we have a program where they design their apps, they build, we give them problems and they build the apps as based on the code that we've taught them, and we want to see if they can, their aptitude, if it goes up. We keep on assessing them and seeing it goes up. And literally our aim was, if they can get into capacity, or if they can get into aliens now, if they can get into, so we were trying to make sure that they understand that there's an opportunity, but that opportunity is not really the job. It's still preparing you for the job.
Right.
Because there's many layers to this. If we don't do that, we want people like aliens, capacity, and all these programs that are really at another level won't be able to get these girls. They won't be able, and they're not interested, trust me. They sometimes, some of the best girls I've ever had, they came to the program purely because they saw a nice good looking guy, or there was nice food, or they don't care. They're like, I don't want to do this. So it's up to us. We identify the person,
right,
and we're very passionate about it. We just hover around this person and make them feel good about themselves, that they're doing the best thing the world has ever seen. They are the best in coding. So we've pumped them with a lot of positivity, which is what they need at the time.
Right.
It might not be what's good when they get into the industry, which is the industry needs to understand that they wouldn't even have an opportunity to get that person if we didn't literally mother that person and say, you are going to be here whether you like it or not. Because coding is not easy. It's not everybody's cup of tea.
Right.
You have 50 girls, only 2 of them are really going to become software developers, and 5 of them are interested. The rest, you're just pushing them, and you're like, look, even if you just go study it. and you're doing this, you know what I mean? You just, it's nice.
Yeah.
There's so many jobs out there. And when they see it, when they visit companies, they see mentors, then they get excited. But it's not a lifetime. It's the role that we play. It's for people who take them to another level that needs to play, and Alvin will tell what their role is. Because our role is just to get that girl to think that the best thing that has ever happened in the coding space.
Right. I think that's so interesting what you talk about, exposure, basically, is even somebody who might not be a career software engineer, when they get exposed to, other opportunities that they could not have dreamed of, is, sort of unlocking that next level, if you like, for them, depending on whether they end up in tech or not. So I think that's really interesting that you mention. So you've mentioned aliens, and you've gestured towards Alvin quite a bit. So Alvin, I want to get you in the conversation as well. So you've come at it from a slightly different point of view, starting off as somebody on the hiring end, and now with Younglings Africa. What I'm curious about is, what are the skills that you focus on in your internship program with Younglings?
I think it speaks to the same things as Bara mentioned, like self-confidence. So somebody can't be comfortable in an environment and in a team if they don't feel that they've earned their stripes. So I think where we're coming from is first go and build your confidence around being a software developer. If you're really good at software development, then maybe you're a bit awkward and weird amongst people, but that's okay because you're really good at software development, right? So I think that's the part we first need to unlock and find is, are you really good at software development? Does your mind click? Can you do it? And then we nurture that. So that'll be the first 6 months of our work with a person like that. And then the next part is where we expose you in the pressure cooker to real world situations. Working in teams, very strict deadlines, trying to make this agile thing work, trying to actually deliver code and not lose it all off my computer, sort of thing. Just fundamentals, right? And once you've established that, it's incredible how we see young people going from being so awkward and weird around code, and then all of a sudden they just go like that. And it's literally within 6 months because they were able to just find their niche and their passion. And that's why I do it, is because of that tingle in your fingers when you create something that works, finally works, after 2 nights straight through. We do that, shoot us down, but we do that. And it's what breaks people into this thing of software development. And that's where they find their obsession. And once you've found your obsession and your passion, you're unstoppable. And then we just need to put a few nice brushes around you, because if you're in a team, you can't just be weird. You've got to be yes, fine, but you also need to be house trained in some way. So that's where people we go through the process. But I think we're trying to unlock your inner obsession.
Right. Well, what are those brushes? I mean, I'm quite curious as to the brushing up that you do. What does that entail?
We have a wonderful lady called Meredith Keegan in our team. And she understands exactly what a corporate environment like ABSA would like. So it's not your savant developer. It needs to be somebody who can actually sit in a meeting with very suited business people and have a proper conversation and not bring their food into the meeting room and not snort in the meeting room. Just simple, basic things, right? But it's not necessarily something that you would have grown up with. Because we come from different backgrounds, different environments. If I go into a certain meeting room and I check my cell phone, my mobile for the time, I might be rude. The rest of the meeting room might experience me as rude. But in other organizations, it might be fine. So I think that's the part we're trying to. People are lenient in the workplace, but that makes it even more difficult to understand how, when you end up in the workplace, how you should behave. So it's trying to instill that common sense around, if you're among other people, first maybe just sit back a little bit, just be a little bit conservative, watch things, and then once you start finding your feet with your obsession and you've proven yourself, then you can start understanding and adapting into the environment. And you become a lot more productive.
Well, I can imagine it. And there's a lot of work from your explanation now that you put into the program. Something that struck me was, with all the work that you put into the program, how do you ensure that you have the right people in the program?
Yeah, so we rely heavily on the likes of Capacity and On the Ball College and Masitutuke Holdings, EOH at some stage as well, Girl Hype. We look at the virtuous cycle as well, where we go back to schools and encourage people to join programs so they can become software developers and they can take IT and pure math at school, especially girls. I mean, my daughter was in grade 9 last year and she had to choose her subjects. And the peer pressure around being just in grade 9, just being that age, is already weird. So how do you kind of manage that? Now, so if we can bring in the likes of yourselves and other people in the industry and show young girls and young boys that this is the role model. You don't have to necessarily be the stereotype, but this is one of the people you could be.
Yeah.
And hey, I connect with that person. I understand where they're coming from. I can see myself there in 4 years' time. So the virtuous cycle works for us as well. And then hoping to channel people into the right direction. So by the time we interview them, we know that they've already been through one of those programs. They had 3 to 6 months worth of skills training, either in Python or Java or in JavaScript or in some language. And then we have an intense interview process with them. We're not perfect yet. I don't have the money yet to buy something like Codility. That would be awesome. IKM, Brainbench, all of those would be tremendous. The moment I can afford them, I will use them. To maybe upfront do a few tests, and we can set up those tests. So you've got many data points. So the way we minimize our risk right now is to have 3 of us going into an interview, and you would have 7 minutes with each of us. You round robin with 3 of us. And after that, we would have our thumbs up or a thumbs down. And that's the decision. Because when we give you a thumbs up, even after a conversation about someone, that thumbs up means that we're going to be supporting you.
Right.
We're going to make sure that you, close as damn it, that you're going to make it. And we're going to try our best for you to find your obsession and be really good at it and find your self-confidence.
Sure, that's quite powerful. I see a hand at the back. I'd like to invite questions absolutely in the second half of our discussion after the break. So please hold on to the question. We'd love to hear it. But as I say, after the break, then we can dive into the Q&A bit. So both of you, Baratang and Alvain, you spend a lot of time, it sounds like, on exposing people to new opportunities and supporting them and making sure that they have, all that support that they need to set them up for success. Whose responsibility is it really to get somebody work ready? Because this is a contentious one. It's so interesting that it's so contentious. Everybody seems to think it's somebody's responsibility. And so I want to open it up to the two of you. Maybe Baratang, to start with you. Whose responsibility is it?
I'm glad going
and
first.
why is it? Oh, let's start with whose responsibility is it? I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's start there.
I think it's a holistic team. I'll make an example with what I know is that in Cape Town works very well because there's too many people doing too many things. So it's Code for Cape Town, Girl Hype, and these other organizations that are teaching young girls mathematics in the townships. And you do girls also. Aliens take girls for a career day. So all these organizations, what they're doing is we're getting girls, even Africa Code Week, I work with them. We're getting young people to get excited about code. That's just this thing that you feel, if you've ever coded, you know it. When you get the first code to work, it's just a miracle.
Yeah.
And we want them to experience that. And once they've experienced that, you can see who's getting excited and who get in that wheel. 90% of them will get in that wheel because it scratches. It's not like it's things that anybody can do. And then you get those that are really good, who are willing to take it another level of trying to challenge themselves. And when you give them a challenge, they're willing to sit there and look for that problem. If they can't find that comma, whatever it is that's making their code not to work, they won't sleep, they won't leave, they will be frustrated, they will be pacing up and down just because they want this thing to work. And those are the people that you now all of a sudden feel like, oh, there's an opportunity here. And obviously it goes with your thinking ability and maths. Now, I think schools should get, the government, everybody should get mathematics right. We shouldn't be saying, we are delusioning South Africans to think that you don't need maths, you don't need to study to be a good coder. Ask good software developers how much they studied and how much hard work they put into who they are. So we listen to media. It comes from this American saying, yeah, Mark Zuckerberg didn't go to university, or they don't know the history of those people. If you read who's Steve Jobs and what he was doing, you'll realize literally he didn't design Apple. Somebody else did. So it's those things that we're not telling the young people that, look, if you want to be a good engineer and if you want to be a good software developer, you're going to have to put a lot of time. You're going to have, as an individual in schools, you're going to have to study. Schools have to, you have to shift your mind. That's one industry where it's about you, though it's about the world and the team. If you're not organized and not disciplined, you won't make it. So that once you get that right as a disciplined school child, because I see one of the schools that we work with very closely is COSAT, can see the discipline in the school, and it rolls over to who the girl become in our programs. And those girls, I've seen some of them literally matriculating and going to work for companies like Intel. Some of the girls, we had them from grade 10, 11, 12, and they get jobs because they go into an internship program. They are willing to invest in that girl because It's a holistic program. Then you have those people who just want to quickly get into software development. So we had a target. At the time, it was just capacity. We were like pushing. If you can get into capacity, we don't care what happens after that. Because we know that there's systems there also that will take good care of you. Or you go to university and there's systems, so there isn't, I don't know. But I know that in these programs, Codex, it was very good, I must say. When it comes to Codex, I give them high five. So it's like they stood the test for us. So it was those programs that we knew that we're preparing our students to know that if you can get in that program, there's someone to take care of you. Our job is to make sure that you get that excitement, you get addicted, you get, like Facebook. Every time you get good likes, every time your code works, you are it. We know you're going to meet challenges. You're going to need a lot of brushing that people like Aliens, Capacity, and whoever will work on. And then from there, it becomes somebody else. And the corporates also have a role to play. They can't just get people and not do anything with them.
So from how you're explaining it, what I'm understanding is there's actually a collective need for us, to all to come together and to say, well, I do this part, and then I sort of hand over to the next group, and they work on the next bit, and then all together, that all leads to somebody who is able to succeed at work.
Nobody can produce a good software developer on their own. They're lying. That person has somewhere, somehow been touched by another program before either they went to a good school, someone who went to Heschel or Bishops, they were born with a computer in front of them. And now, if you go to someone who comes from Kailicha, it's a holistic, it's all of us playing. And I used to say, Emma and I used to have an agreement. We can circulate these girls, we don't care. Even one girl, some of the girls will go to Code for Cape Town camp, come to ask for camp, go there. And people are like, but you're paying money for one girl. It takes a lot of money to get a good software developer. It really does. I mean, I've seen people who I thought this one is going to make it, failing a Google exam. And I'm like, but this person has masters in engineering. Why are you telling me you can't employ them? And it's that little thing that they're looking for, that we are delusioning people to think that 3 months in a boot camp or 3 months in what will be good. These companies pay a lot of money. We don't have those resources. You guys have mentors. I know Capacity has mentors. Those people have personal people coming and talking to them. We give them exposure to companies. We give them exposure to mentors. We get them to like coding, and we get them to be able to survive entry level.
Right.
Somebody else must take over.
Alvain, I think you mentioned earlier that you have a lot of opinions about that someone must take over. What are those opinions? Can you tell us a little bit more about who you think should take over?
To me, I liked when you sent us the list of questions beforehand. You actually broke it up into like sectors of our society.
Yes.
So schools, government, tertiary educations, companies, etc. Now, in my opinion, who are the people who are really interested in software development skills? Those are the companies, right? So in the end, they need these skills. But then it trickles down, and they need to take hands with government and enable government to supply them with the right funding and the right structures. They need to take hands with schools and help that. It's a whole journey for someone. From grade 6 already, you start looking at a little code course around robotics, and it triggers that adrenaline rush for you. And you go into grade 8 and you start playing with Scratch, and you go into grade 10 and you start playing with Java, and you end up, that's what you do. But it's a whole journey. So we need to be looking at not the people who need to be changing these things. We need to be looking at that girl or that boy in grade 6 and what their journey is, and how do we plug in all of these different mechanisms and things we have to make that person be an accomplished software engineer at the end of it.
But that's only if you're talking about best software engineer. I think everybody needs to know how to code. I think now that I'm speaking among some software developers, I was very careful. But we tell our girls everybody needs to know how to code. So that is the part where we all know that in future, if coding is just going to be like any other language, and maybe some machines will be coding. So, but what we're saying is, let everybody know. And then choose who fits where and put them there, depending on how you've selected. So if you want pure hardcore software web developers and what, maybe you will go that route of, like that boy. But we just, everybody welcome. So if you work like us and you're like, everybody's welcome, you somehow find, oh, this person would be a good data scientist. This person will be good with UX. They're very, they're creative. They love to talk too much in class and they think they know it all. You give them posters, you give them what they are good. So we take all those and we channel them. That we don't say, darling, you won't write a good code. We say, you know what, you're very good at talking too much and coming up with this. Can you project manage this group and make sure they get things right? And the moment you start giving them responsibilities, you see them switching. Because now all of a sudden, they feel important in the team. Because you will have 5 girls, only one of them is going to like sitting in front of a computer and code all the time. Others are standing there saying, but you made an error there. And the person who's struggling is like, and they're very good at working around and saying, I see you missed that. Put the same person who said, I see you missed that in front of the computer, they can't do anything. But they're very good at this agile management. They're very good at convincing people what to do. So we try to select all these people and channel them that way.
So it sounds like, again, from what you're both saying, there's a lot of collective effort that needs to take place to get people, first of all, interested, exposed, and then sort of that guidance, that channeling them in the right direction. What about on the company's end? So Alvin, you were saying that ultimately, people are going to get into a workplace and the companies are the ones who want the software developers. What should they be doing practically once somebody is there in terms of getting them ready or setting them up for success?
It would be a good idea to introduce them to their culture. I've found that in different companies, every single different team in a company has a different culture. They work in a different way. They're weird about having their coffee in the morning or in the afternoon. And if you don't adhere to that, then you're a little out for the first part until you start drinking coffee. So it's all these little quirks and things that's in a team and in a company that people coming from a program needs to adapt to. But anybody, if I'm employed from a different company, then I also need to learn these cultural differences. And I think that's the only thing that a company needs to do, actually, is just to embrace people who come into their teams, understand where they're at in their journey as a software developer, and cater to that and help them and just give them the right support structures. Because everybody understands how this works. Everybody understands where, if I'm a senior developer, then I need these support structures. If I'm a junior software developer, I need these. And it's simple. So we just need to pay attention to it. And not only pay attention to building software and creating products, but also pay a lot of attention to the teams that we create. Because only once they work well together will your software work well together.
Right.
Or
So
maybe we
really,
change.
Sorry?
Or maybe we change a little bit, loosen up a little bit to allow people who are not like us to be part of the process.
Yeah.
If we've had this for years, like we go to a boys' club at night, and then Baratang walks in and say, no, at night I must take care of my child. She will never be part of the team because there's nothing for her to talk about if she's pregnant or having a baby, or she's amongst these people who are like, hey, let's go to boys' club. And it's like, oh, yeah, maybe I should go to that team over there because they're talking nicely. And that's why most women will then move to that team over there, leave this team because they're not part of it. Or based on cultural differences, if I'm struggling to get to Kailicha at 8 at night, I still don't have a car, it's raining, I don't rock up for the hackathon, and you're upset with me. And you don't ask me, why don't you come to our meetings or hackathons? You just assume I'm shy.
Yeah,
Because
I
I'm
agree with
quiet.
that.
yeah.
Especially the
You don't
points
know
around-
what my problem
Yeah.
is. No.
So I think this is a really
Absolutely.
interesting aspect of it, and it's actually what I wanted to sort of wrap up with as well. Is we've been talking, I think, up to this point very broadly around work readiness, but Baratang, I think you're bringing it really back home in terms of, how we started off the evening to say, well, actually, we have to look at what does our socioeconomic, background as a country look like? What do our demographics look like? And so in being part of the culture and being introduced to that culture, there are differences. We show up differently at work. And so I'm interested from your experience and from your point of view when it comes to setting somebody up who comes from an underprivileged or underserved background, setting them up for success. What can we do to help them?
The only way you can become something is if you listen to positive stories all the time. So what we do is we take people who look like them to go talk to them and tell them about their journey. So when I tell the girls, oh, I was born in the same, like literally there's no difference between you and me. The only difference is that I did it earlier than you. Before you were born, I did it. So after 20 years of experience, I've mastered how to maneuver myself around it.
Mm.
And if you hang around, it's a joke. I always tell them it's a joke that if you hang around white people enough time, you tend to behave like them. And then they tend to accept you and they tend to like you. So what you need to do is, there are behaviors that you're going to have to learn because they were set up for corporates and they're there. Nobody can change them. It's not that everybody likes them. So hang around people who have either sat around a mom or a dad who talks like that all the time, and be open enough to talk about your problems, which is something that we're on our own journey, that you have to learn to talk about your challenges. Our culture teaches us you can't talk about challenges. You only gloat. And it's subtle because you can't go to your parents and complain every day. They wanna be like, they don't have time for complainers. So now you internalize it. You're in a situation where you have to, if you're not happy and you want to tell somebody, listen, I really don't like what you just said to me now, you have to think about lots of things. Maybe they are adults, maybe they're what. So we tell girls all these things that, when you get to work, all these nice of yours, they were prepared for you to live in this. Let's just polish them a little bit. So we do what we call how to survive in an uncomfortable world. I don't know, they have a name for it. But we switch roles. So we'll take girls who come from Michelle's Plain, who come from Kailicha. Because amongst themselves, in their disadvantaged backgrounds, they all, these classes, if you have better windows or better house, or my mom drives this car. So amongst them, we do that. We mix them like that, and we make sure that the one who has is challenged by one who cannot pitch up for the meetings, doesn't have a laptop, doesn't read their emails, doesn't do so. That way, that other one, because now they speak the same language, they tend to explain to each other, how the hell do you expect me to, are you better than me? And that way they learn that, oh, I can talk about this. And if I break a computer, it's not broken, it can be fixed. So it's fine. You can break it today, tomorrow. So we do that. We're like, oh, yeah, we broke it, that's fine. It's fine. We'll ask somebody to buy a new one. And especially when we teach them PHP, they tend to go on code forever. And tomorrow there's nothing, gone. And you're like, oh yeah, oh, you broke it. We'll get somebody to buy a new one, or we'll fix it. But it's getting them to understand that there's nothing wrong with them. It's the society that's wrong. And giving them that safe space to understand that you can make it. But then there are programs that they are going to, or spaces that they are going to. I give Alvin high five. I've seen how aliens work. There was a boy who came from our program. Though we girl hype, we sometimes get boys, especially from COSA. They will send boys and say, this boy is very good. Can you guys work with them? This boy never said one word to me. And I know most of the students because I talk to them. And he never said even one word to me. Even this day, when we meet at the APSA, at work in progress, he would say, hi, ma, and that's it. But you should see him talking to the directors and in meetings when he's starting to talk. I'm very proud of Leslie. I know that it was because he was in a safe space that allowed him to be able to grow. We can't run away from it. This shy of thinking that people are all molded. We need to understand that people go to bad schools. People are hungry. People walk in the rain to go to school. And then they get a 7 quote, minister put quotes there. That 7 does not mean all of a sudden tomorrow they're going to be polished people going, hey, how are you? No, it doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
You have now to undo the thing of they didn't know how to problem solve. They don't know how to, just interact in environments that are different from their ones.
100%. Yeah. I think it's so powerful what you mentioned just now about the safe space and allowing somebody the safe space to show up as they are. Is so powerful.
You don't have to I call it mother them, but you don't have to pamper them and make life easy. And literally watched Aliens for 2 years because I sit at this desk, they sit there. There's no pampering there. Alvin just push them with all the hard work all the time, and you see that these kids feel safe enough to be themselves. Everybody has in that space know that these kids come from a different background and they are here. We have to welcome them because now it's a culture in the space. We know that the students, they're all coding, they all work for Aliens, and they're engaging with people who are at a certain management level. Some are CEOs, some are starting companies, and from upside with the upside executives. Within 6 months, it's like totally different people. Every time they walk in, I'm like, oh, I want to see. Even the girls, they walk in there within 6 months, they're totally changed people. And I think that's kind of a model that needs to be replicated if, I don't know other people's models. I worked for Capacity, so I know their model also. Good.
So I want to, at this point, Alvain, bring you in here in terms of, getting your point of view is, why is this so important to get it right? Just before Baratang had started answering, you were, agreeing with her about the differences that we have to be cognizant of and address head on. Why do you think it's so important that we do that?
Address the differences.
Yes.
Yeah, but also we need to find the thing that's the same. So if we can find the thing that's the same, which is the fact that we obsess about code, and we find this programming language that we really enjoy, and we just dive into that deeply, we can forget about having gone to bed without food last night, or getting mugged on the train back home, or standing in the rain from 5 o'clock in the morning, and then eventually getting to work at 9 o'clock and trying to do that again going home. So if we can find something that just for a moment, for a while, I can just forget about all that. And I can just focus on this one thing where I can connect with this person in China and this person in San Francisco, and I'm on the same footing as them. And I find myself confident in that. And I can see, okay, I don't understand these things yet, but hang on, I just need to work here, Udemy course there, some mentorship there, and look at me, I'm at next level again. And look at me, next level again. And what happens is people's financial life also changes. So in the program, they go from very low stipends, and they just do a jump up to 3 times more than they earn normally. They earn more than their parents, right? So it's almost as if it's a life-changing event. And because of the people that we're talking about, somebody between 18 and 21 years old, who did not go to university and probably would never go to university for computer science, there are 400 people coming out of our schools in the Western Cape every single year. Those 400 have the ability. I'm not even starting to talk about other people in like older generations and who've already studied something. I'm just talking about that group there. 400 people. Imagine us getting every single year another 400 young people into the system, self-confident, ready to code, building things. And then over time, they do their apprenticeship to get their degrees or whatever they want to do. That is powerful. So we need to make sure that we get that right, because it provides me and anybody else with a passion for something and a different mindset and the capacity to care about other people as well.
Yeah, 100%. That's really powerful to think about that number and what the future could look like if we were able to help them really unlock their potential, and getting them to thrive in in a career. Thank you. Thank you very much. I feel like we could keep having this conversation all night long. It's been really wonderful getting your thoughts on these questions here, but we do have to take a break. So we're going to take a break now. Please help yourself to some snacks. We are going to break for 15 minutes. Meet somebody you did not come with tonight. They have a saying that Cape Townians just like their own friends. So say hi to somebody you don't know tonight. And then in about 15 minutes, we'll come back. And we'll have our Q&A session. So certainly the gentleman in the back, your question, we are coming to answer it, and many, many more. During the break as well, please don't forget to answer the question that is on the wall outside near the snacks. What does a diverse workplace look like? And of course, please continue to make people at home feel jealous that they're not here. Thank you very much. We'll see you after the break. Hello, everybody. Hello there. I can only imagine that you are discussing your question with your neighbor for the Q&A portion of the evening. Excellent. Thank you for staying for the next portion of the discussion. So, as I mentioned before the break, this section or this portion of the evening is really Q&A discussion. So, very much, giving you an opportunity to ask the questions that you have, I think, more broadly around the topics that we've addressed this evening, either to our panelists or to the audience. We are a community ourselves here tonight, and so if there is a question that you have to the audience, I think that would be really important for us to have that discussion as well as the community that we are this evening. So we are going to open it up. We do have a microphone, so if you raise your hand, luckily we don't have a massive hall, so the microphone will come for you quickly, or come to you quickly. Prepositions, they're so important. Yes. Is there a brave soul among us? Thank you. If you could actually, it would be great if you could say your name and your question. That would be wonderful.
One thing that came up very early in the conversation was getting young people interested in technology. And the other part of that was getting them interested in joining an environment that isn't looking like them. So when we worked with Code for Cape Town, and we had 5 girls joining us at the time it was Take a Lot. It was a predominantly white male environment, and what can we as the industry do to make that experience better, and what can we do both from the inclusivity perspective and from the getting interest in technology, particularly for people who haven't yet studied computer science, who might still wonder whether that is the work for them, when a sort of a day-to-day experience of a developer isn't the most interesting thing usually.
That's a really big one. Jose, did you want to say something? Yes, please. Oh, hang on, we have to wait for the mic. There we go.
Cool. So that's a great question, because I had something I wanted to say anyway, and now I can make it kind of relevant, right? So one of the things that I was reflecting on when you were talking about, work readiness and, people integrating, etc., was, can't we kind of just flip it around a little bit and talk a little bit more around the unique contribution that, these young graduates from the boot camps, etc., have to make, right? And my mind kind of went back to an experience that I had in a retail environment, where I worked previously, where we were sitting around talking about why this premium retailer was struggling to sell shoes to this burgeoning black mass market. And people were coming up, we saw in Australia and the US, and we saw this and we saw that. And these guys were like, all there with their MBAs. And one product manager who came from a very different background put her hand up and she said, because the shoes are rubbish. And they were like, what? She was like, because if you actually have to walk in your shoes every day to get to the taxi, and when you get to the other side, you still have another mile to walk, our shoes are pretty. Our shoes are made for getting in your car, getting out of your car, walking, through some lobby, and that's it. And so then we had to actually rethink everything and say, well, this is why everyone else with more expensive shoes is actually beating us. And these wonderful, disposable fashion sandals that we came up with don't work for the market that we want to reach. And so that may seem like a silly example, but if you really think about the other point that Baratang made around coding and all of this is about building solutions. And some of the biggest problems we're trying to solve are about how to build more inclusive education, more inclusive healthcare, etc., being built by people who've never been excluded. So the importance of having these people on the team, creating an environment where they can speak up, is huge, right? And I think that maybe if we look at it that way and think about how do we have more of these people around the team, then what they lack becomes a little bit less of an issue, right? Because we're looking at them in terms of what they bring and what we lack. And then suddenly it's a level playing field and it becomes a lot easier for everyone to give and take.
Hallelujah.
Yeah.
May I ask them a
Yeah,
question at the back as well?
absolutely,
So, it depends on your timeline. So are you looking at within the next 6 months to get a quick win on something, or are you looking at the next 6 years?
There's two different timelines for me. One is for particularly the bigger companies. If we look at the economics of building a community of developers in Cape Town and making it worthwhile for a company to have a 5-year horizon, it's important to get involved in schools early on. So when I worked in big corporate in London, that's what we did, because we needed to build that pipeline of getting 25 to 50 grads every year into the company. That's a very different situation for a lot of smaller companies. The place I'm at the moment, I would love to get more grads in, but we can't quite afford it at the moment. So now the horizon is much shorter, and it's a different conversation, and that's happening for a smaller company. So there's both there for me. So that I'd like to go longer, and part of me wants to do a lot more the 5-year horizon, the 10-year horizon. Yeah. But then there's also the current, what can I do right now in my company?
Can I? So Baratang, you mentioned that you wanted to add something, but I'm curious, Alvain, why that question?
Yeah, because then your starting point is in different places, and so if you're looking at 5 years, then you can do at least 4 things right now. I hope 4 is the right number, but number 1 is, if your horizon is 4 to 5 to 6 years, is go to grade 9s right now. And just take your funkiest, coolest guys, gals, whoever, go in there and go and teach somebody something. Go and teach, because only of a class of 30 people, I guess only about, at max, 10 of them will probably be interested in software development. But you need to catch all 10 of them. So you need to grab their attention in some way. And I've seen Where's My Transport. I know Henk. There's loads of interesting things that comes out of that space. And you can think up many different things. That's number 1. So that in about 4 to 5 years' time, when that person comes out of school, they've built up a relationship with you as a white male of 30-odd, and they understand how you think. You understand how they think, and you're not so far apart anymore. It's not 2 different worlds anymore. You've been to COSAT, you've been to CAMST, you've been to Spine Road High School, you've been to those schools, you've seen how they live, right? That's the one part. The second, I hope there's still 4. The second one is, you just go to, there are so many of us. There's Codex Academy, there's Capacity, we've mentioned all these names. There's We Think Code, all of us are there. We produce people all the time. That's what we try to do, is create people who are ready for your industry. Because we know there's a huge demand, and we know there's a huge supply as well. So we're trying to get the middle part right, the operations around it, because it's bloody expensive trying to run all of this. And all of us are doing it. We're putting our own money into this. We're doing second jobs. We're doing day jobs so we can do this job, our passion jobs. So there's a huge market there. You can straight away go to those people. And then thirdly, you can start connecting with like-minded people. I don't have 4, I've got 3. Thirdly, connect with like-minded people who've already come through these programs and ask them to help you understand this and go do the virtuous cycle. Go back to schools, go into these programs, go support this thing. Because all of a sudden, we become this place where we just have so many capable people in terms of software development that we've got a surplus of supply and the world comes to us. Imagine your accent sounds sounds like it's from the United Kingdom. So, Germany, okay. So imagine German companies saying, wow, we want to invest in there. We've got an example right now with Younglings. It's 29 Forward. It's a BI company who decided to start investing with us. And only 4 people for now. But they're going to build this up now. And the talent that they've got is incredible. People who are, 3 of the 4 people are straight out of school. They're 19 years old. And they're going to the likes of MedScheme and to different companies and holding their own in those environments. So there are so many ways to do this. Actually 3, but anyway. I don't know if that makes sense. Does it make sense? Yeah. Start somewhere else. Maybe start somewhere else. Sorry to interrupt. Maybe start somewhere else and say, the people you produce, we will interview. And the ones who are really good, we'll take in. Understanding that they are very junior. And we'll then invest in them in our company. You don't have to, we'll make it work. We'll make the finances work around this thing because it's a passion thing. At some stage, when you start realizing that the quality that you're getting through our programs is of such high quality that you would want us to do more, then you start investing. Then it becomes a bigger budget item. But for now, just support the demand side. Just take the people that we create, because there are many of them. Yeah. Yeah.
So I think what you mentioned there is part of the complexity of the challenge is to say, while yes, there is an opportunity to have people who've got the skills coming into companies, there's also companies looking at their budgets and saying, what support can we provide given what is required? But what's interesting is even in this exchange now, we're seeing that in its complexity, there are different partners, there are different members of the community that it feels like need to come together somehow to say, well, if there is a need that looks like that at a company, well, then maybe there are other people who have figured out this portion of it. And then there's somebody else who's figured out that portion to be able to help a company that wants to do good, but is struggling to say, well, what are Alvain's 3 things? Or, what are the other elements as well? So I see some hands real quick. Baratang, I wanted to come to you. You wanted to add something a little bit earlier.
And then she covered it, but I'm going to add something.
Sure.
This year, last year, we were approached by a company to say, can you train our graduate students? Because you've been doing this and you think you know it. Can you train our graduate students to be good software developers? So they gave us a budget to train them for 6 months, which we did very well. Hand them to them. And then 3 months later, they called me and said, but Baratan, your students are quiet. And I said, oh, no, my students are not quiet. Later, I was like, no. I gave you the best, and you are going to have to work with them. Because I think what happens is both sides are sitting on the flip side. The students are sitting thinking, how do I become part of it? Frustrations go home. They don't like me. I can't work there. I hate it. You are sitting here thinking, how do I get these people to work with me? And so, no, literally, I refused because obviously they've paid me to do the work. So for me, it was a matter of noise. I'm not giving you your money back, and I did my job, and then within the debate, something came up to say they they gave me a name, emotional IQ for workplace, and they are going to employ someone to do that intervention. So between the two of us, we do the training. They bring their own mentors, all white males. Come every weekend, they spend time with the girls. And what we found is that they've now, because the girls know what to expect, they know who they are going to. They've been with a mentor for more than 6 months. We're starting another program with them. It's been so easy. Like that transition is very easy because everybody is invested in it. Everybody is like, oh, we've worked together in an environment where you weren't telling me to deliver to. You weren't expecting anything. You were just coaching and mentoring. So you've established that rapport of, you know what, I trust you, and you and I can have coffee from the same machine in a different environment. By the time they get to the way, so fortunately it's a fintech space. By the time they get there, they start talking about finances. They're not thinking about, oh, I don't know anything about finances anymore. Oh, I don't know this person. I don't know that I'm incompetent. Oh my God, I need to run. They're like, you know what? I can always talk to Tom or who because they will help me. And we've established like a mentorship. So they know what they want, we know what we can deliver, and we've partnered for that particular thing. And they realized between us and the company, we won't be able to pull it together. So they brought in someone who do a pure job as a psychologist. She do what they call work IQ to change the culture of the organization to be able to adapt to young girls who come from school, who still have broken English, who still have other issues. It's not the company's issues, it's their own issues. Maybe the boyfriend broke up with her yesterday or whatever. They deal with those things in that environment. So now they feel so settled, but they don't have too much money now. They only take 5. But I've seen a huge shift. From the first group, they told me they don't talk, and I said, not my girls. They know how to talk. And I can guarantee you they will talk. So it means, I think, both parties, you can't sit on the side and be like, they don't know, that, like we're doing what Bill is talking about. The moment you start flipping it and be like, how do they feel on the other side?
Yeah, that's super interesting what you mentioned there around bringing in mentors who can sort of remove that, like, I have to deliver right now, to just saying, actually, let's sit down together and try figure out where you're at. I want to go to the hands that were raised. Kari, did you want to jump in there as well? Yes. Oh, here comes the mic.
I absolutely support everything Varys said at that point. And I want to add around hiring. If you're seniors, if you hire intermediate to senior people who aren't designed or prepared to mentor, you are cutting short your own pipeline. So if you're looking at hiring and you can only afford to hire at this point intermediate to seniors for productivity reasons, look for the people who care about mentoring, because that means in a year's time, it's much easier to bring in juniors. So that's a way that you can show up. That's, yeah.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. There was another hand. Yes. I think the mic can just jump back. There we go.
My question is kind of related to that. You mentioned that the people you look for in your interns are those that have got the confidence. And for me, that sort of raised warning bells, because how do you get that confidence if you don't have the experience? Everyone feels the imposter syndrome. And the mentorship sort of answered that in some ways, but I just think that we need to refocus on how we actually take the girls from being mothered and drop them into an environment where, yes, in any tech space, we are going to need to demand the attention. We're going to need to stand up and say, hey, actually, I don't know this, and I need to overcome the feeling of feeling stupid and asking for help in that, because you can get stuck on a problem and like for a week that should take an hour. And I'm actually a student at Rethink Code, so I started in tech a year ago and know that it's real. Imposter syndrome is real. Even if you actually know what you're doing, if someone's watching you, you don't know how to type anymore. So just that is my question, basically. How do you, what leniency do you have in that confidence? Are people meant to fake it?
I think maybe I came across incorrectly. So I'm not looking for the confidence initially. I'm just looking for somebody who knows that they want to code. And then we foster the self-confidence. We grow you into that. We allow you to just find your passion and your obsession around software development, and you grow into it. And eventually I can almost see it in somebody, see it when it happens to someone. They sort of click. It's typically after a conversation or after some code started working or something, where they all of a sudden realize, oh my word, I know as much as many people here. And all of a sudden they start talking freely and they start having conversations about code, etc. And I think it comes back to the point where I said is the only thing that we can all talk about really is the zeros and ones. And that's what we try to foster is wherever you come from, whatever your personality type is, however you think, and most people that we bring into the program are very shy. I mean, they struggle to have a proper conversation with anybody but their closest friends. And that is typical. I'm like that. And so if we can just find a way to unravel the bits around what we really know and what our passions are, and we get confidence in that, then we can stand up tall and we can grow. And we can, so that's what we try to do within the first 6 months, and because these things take time. And then the second 6 months is where we now start. So you've got the confidence now, you've got the skills. How do you do that in a team? How do you use those in a team? Wield your superpowers in a team, and how do you manage when you get a lot of pressure and the deadlines are intense, and you've got to just cope with those things. But we still do it in a safe environment. That's why we call it the pressure cooker. So it's almost like those pots where you put the water and the stuff inside, and you close it, you put it on the stove, and you turn up the heat, and it just simmers along. And every now and again, you realize that the team needs to learn something, and that's where. So Meredith and Lindani, those are the key people in that space. Is they would know when to turn up the heat slightly, so it becomes like a intense pressure cooker environment where emotions boil over, where people make mistakes, where people get confronted with all kinds of weird things, and you survive those. And we're there to catch you and to hold you. Almost. So motherly is a bit. I'm not a mother. And I know the difference between myself and my wife. I'm not a mother at all. She's really good at that. But we try and create that sort of nurturing environment. And in my opinion, after about 12 months, some people earlier, people are ready. They're not the best yet.
What is wrong with them being feminine?
No.
I'm just asking because we're saying it's motherly or it's what. But I mean, if we teach people and we give them the characteristics of being feminine in a workspace.
Totally, absolutely. What I mean is, I'm not feminine. I can't even try to describe what it would be like to be motherly because I'm not. I can't be. I can just be nurturing. Does that make sense?
It does.
So I suppose maybe in general in the program, it's really important to nurture the participants of the program, the students in the program, right from the get-go, if I'm understanding you correctly. And then in the pressure cooker phase, it's when do you turn up the heat in that nurturing versus tough love kind of balance. Yeah.
But maybe also what Alvin is trying to, I'll speak for him because I know that he's doing a good job. What he's trying to say is he gets people who really are confidence, in my definition of confidence, non-existent. And that is the definition of how do you dress or you dressed well. You know, like that software coder culture, they don't have it. And maybe they don't talk back, they don't express their views. But it's not what they look for. They're looking for, the confidence they're talking about is when you touch that computer, can you code? Period. If you can speak there, there's a common ground. And I think I speak for everybody. If you can speak code, maybe we use the wrong way to say we nurture people and we do what? That's skills that will make you survive in the workplace. But for you to get in, you need to be able to code. We're not gonna, that's not a compromise. You're there to code. We can't shift it. You know, like the Cosmopolitan magazine asked me to tell them how should people be dressed for interviews. I'm sitting there thinking, in the industry I work in, people don't care how you dress. Because literally, that's not the confidence people are looking for. And it took me 3 weeks to respond to this woman because my brain is trying very hard to reply. And after a while, I said to her, you know, the people who wrote the best softwares wear the same t-shirt every day. And I don't know how to respond, but I do know that they need to be clean when they go for an interview. And I do know that they need to be able to sit in front of the computer, wherever they are, and code. Because sometimes, you know, they will never see their employer, they will never be able to be seen how they are dressed, but they are in the tech space. So I think we need to redefine, maybe we use the wrong word of saying confidence, but what we mean is the basics should be right. If the basics are right, we can work with you. Because that is just fluff stuff. You can teach people how to hang around software developers.
So I'm conscious of time as well. So I just I think that's a very important point that you've raised, and I think some of the efforts, like for example with Girl Hype, that you do, Baratang, about exposing people to software development and to coding at the school level.
No, but can I just call
Yeah.
We don't test coding, we test logical thinking, ability. You're thinking that you can be able to code if we put you in. And I know I speak for all the programs. The exams that you write, even within code, it's just logical thinking ability. Will you be able to survive in this environment? Can you think beyond what we give you and solve that problem? Is what everybody's testing. It's not about coding. And if you can't do that, darling, it doesn't matter how much I'm going to train you. I know people that we've trained, they know that whole JavaScript. They retrain JavaScript all the time because they can't go beyond the fascination of, oh, I know how to code. There's another level, and that's the person we test. We test the person that we know that if we were to go to give you a problem with the coding that you have, you'll go another level.
So, as I say, unfortunately, because of time, I know we can keep chatting all night, but unfortunately, because of time, we're going to have to leave it there. However, after this, I mean, there is still opportunity to ask our panelists, come up to them and just ask them any questions that you may have as well. Certainly, if you have something that you were hoping to say and don't have an opportunity in this exact forum. But one of the things that I did want to say in closing is I think the big question now happens, we've had this discussion and what's next? And as OfferZen Foundation, something that we've been thinking about a lot as well of what's next. And in the conversations that we've had, sort of putting together the Tech Inclusion report we put out earlier this month, actually, and in the conversations we've had with people up until this point, this idea of collective action and sort of coming together as a community to say, what are the burning issues actually, from different points of view, and then as a community, how can we actually act together to affect change in some of those burning areas? That's where we are looking to next as OfferZen Foundation. So I invite you, if you are somebody who is sitting there thinking, I have to be part of a group like this that is going to think and act together with other members of the tech community, please come and chat to me after right now. I'd be very keen to connect with you about next steps in that regard. But for now, as I say, we have run short of time. I first want to thank our panelists, Baratang, Alvain. Thank you very much for being here. It's great that you two also know each other and the work that you do. I feel like it's led to a really good conversation tonight, so thank you. Thank you to each and every one of you for being here. It's been absolutely wonderful hearing your questions and interacting with you. Thank you to all the helpers who've been running around helping with things this evening. Special thanks to Candice and Alex, who have made sure that this space looks as fantastic as it does, that tonight happens as it does. So thank you, thank you, thank you so much. And then the winner of the hoodie. Can we get our model back up? No! We have a model, but no hoodie. Okay, let's do a little bit of a drum roll. Okay. Thank you for indulging me. Okay, so the winner of our hoodie is Kirsten Lee Marchand. Yay! Cool, so we'll connect with you to make sure that you get your swag. Yay. All right, thank you so much, everybody. Have a good evening.